Now, Elizabeth Warren has been making some headlines as of late with her feud with Donald Trump, calling him a loser. But while she was in the spotlight, she was also asked if Bernie Sanders should drop out of the race. That was actually from the AP. They asked her, hey man, Bernie Sanders, he's behind, so shouldn't he just drop out? Shouldn't he drop out? Well, Warren, as you know, has not actually made an endorsement of any candidate, despite pressure from the establishment to endorse Hillary Clinton, and despite pressure from the grassroots that's supporting Bernie Sanders to endorse him. Now, she's trying to stay out of it. And I think I have an idea why. But first, let me get to her answer on that question. Should Bernie drop out? Basically, no. He should stay. He should definitely stay. Quote, he's out there, he fights from the heart. This is who Bernie is. He's put the right issues on the table, both for the Democratic Party and for the country in general. So I'm still cheering Bernie on. Now that's pretty close to an endorsement without actually officially endorsing. So if she's cheering Bernie on, if she's in support of Bernie's policies, which she is, why doesn't she just take that leap? Well, once again, it goes to my theory. I'll get to that in a minute. Now, back in January, I'm going to give you an example of how close she's been to endorsing Senator Sanders. Quote, I'm glad Bernie Sanders is out there fighting to hold big banks accountable, make our economy safer, and stop the GOP from rigging the system. Then she added, I'm glad all the Dem candidates for president, Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, and Martin O'Malley, are fighting for Wall Street reform. Now, she also added, while the Democrats are saying, gee, the right answer is to improve Affordable Care Act in the following 6 ways or go all the way to single payer, which is a good debate to have. The Republicans are saying they're going to repeal the Affordable Care Act and replace it with something they can't quite describe. So, look, it's pretty close to an endorsement. Then she kind of walks it back. I know that's kind of frustrating. But once again, I'm going to explain it. See, you've probably asked, hey, look, if Bernie Sanders, if you support Bernie Sanders so much in his policies, why not just endorse him? Help him win. And I see that argument all the time. Now, for the answer, I go to a Politico article released a couple of years ago titled Hillary's Hit List. Now, in this article, it says, as one of the last orders of business for a losing campaign, this was back in 2008, the Hillary Clinton campaign recorded in a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet the names and deeds of members of Congress. They carefully noted who had endorsed Hillary, who had backed Obama, and who had stayed on the sidelines. Standard operating procedure for any high-end political organization. However, the data went into much more nuanced detail. Nuanced detail. You see, yeah, most campaigns, okay, you endorsed me, you didn't, you stayed on the sidelines, whatever. This one went into more detail. How much more detail? Quote, we wanted to have a record of who endorsed us and who didn't. And of those who endorsed us, who went the extra mile and who was just kind of there, and those who didn't endorse us, those who understandably didn't endorse us, because they are Congressional Black Caucus members or Illinois members, and then, of course, those who endorsed him but really should have been with her. That burned her. And the last thing you want to do in politics is burn Hillary Clinton, at least if you want some sort of influence or if you want a position. Now, that's politics. Unfortunately, it's dirty. The people who help you get special treatment, and the people who don't help you, well, they don't get anything. Now, the article continues. They remembered nearly every bit of assistance the Clintons had given them and every slight made against them. Almost 6 years later, most Clinton aides can still rattle off the names of traitors and the favors that have been done for them, then provide details of how just each of the guilty had gone on to betray the Clintons, as if it all happened just a few hours before. The Data Project ensured the acts of the sinners and saints would never be forgotten. Hillary's hit list. I guess the last thing you want to do in politics is be on that hit list. That's why you see Claire McCaskill, who is on this hit list. There's 7 people, and they ranked them from 1 to 7, 7 being the worst. Well, Claire McCaskill wasn't actually a 7, but she was on that list. And she has spent the entire entire election, this primary, trying to get off that list. Now I think you can understand why Claire McCaskill has gone on so strong against Bernie Sanders in all of her appearances. She's trying to make up, she's trying to get off that hit list. And there are many politicians that are on that list that want to get off of it. Now, it mentioned members of the Congressional Black Caucus. For example, John Lewis. He supported Obama in 2008, and now he's supporting vehemently Hillary Clinton. He wants to get off that list. He wants off that list. Now, as for Elizabeth Warren, well, let's get back into her. Now, back in 2013, Warren had actually signed a letter with other Democratic women in the Senate that encouraged Clinton to run for president. So that's way back before Bernie Sanders even considered a run. Hey, let's get all together, all the women of the Senate, let's endorse, well, not endorse, but let's encourage her to run. Okay, hey, there you go. Now, since then, Warren has kind of backtracked a little bit on that and said, look, I encouraged her to run, but it doesn't mean I endorsed her. Interesting. So why does this matter? Well, look, I think it's Elizabeth Warren making a political move to make sure that she can continue the fight against Wall Street. Now, you might think, couldn't she do better? Couldn't she do that better if she endorsed Bernie Sanders? That's a good question. Well, what effect would her endorsement actually have? Now, it certainly wouldn't change the minds of anybody in the establishment. Remember, Warren has been against the establishment. She's been fighting against the establishment. They're trying to shut her down. Heck, even Debbie Wasserman Schultz is attempting to shut down the CFCB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. So that's Elizabeth Warren's baby. They've been trying to shut that down. They've been trying to fight her on every piece of legislation to go after the banks. The establishment already doesn't like Elizabeth Warren. However, Elizabeth Warren, for as much as they don't like her, she's not on Hillary's hit list. An endorsement for Bernie Sanders would most certainly 100% land her on that list. Now, the thing about that is that, look, Warren's one of the few progressives left in the Senate. As I noted, the establishment hates her. However, she's still there and still has influence because of her connection and popularity with the people, with the grassroots Democratic base, the progressives. And right now, because of the election, the Democrats are still trying to appear to be the party of the people. And that's because there are so many people paying attention. Now, if she endorses Bernie now, and we'd like her to do that, progressives everywhere have been calling on her to do that, and he doesn't win, Hillary Clinton and the establishment, they'll finish the job. They'll try to destroy her. For example, by withholding funding for some of her Senate races. And, of course, do other legislative tricks to try to destroy her and any legislation that she wants to bring forward. If she endorses Clinton, but Bernie wins, well, look at it this way. Does Bernie Sanders have a hit list? Didn't think so. Bernie Sanders is not going to hold it against you. Oh, you didn't support me as a superdelegate, but you and I share the same values? Yes, absolutely, let's work together. I'm going to champion your cause because your cause is my cause. Bernie Sanders is not a politician in that way. Yes, he's a politician. He's served for decades. But he's not that kind of politician. He doesn't play politics like that. He just says, look, I want to get this stuff done. I believe in these issues. I'm going to fight for these issues. That's what I do. Hillary Clinton is like, no, what's going to help me politically? And I help my friends that help me, and I crush my enemies. You don't want to be on Hillary Clinton's enemies list, which certainly Bernie Sanders is 100% on. Tulsi Gabbard is 100% on. She had to resign her position within the DNC just to support Bernie Sanders. So she's not going to get any love from the Clintons for sure, even if Hillary wins. Now, the whole point of endorsing Clinton for, the people that have endorsed her is to get on her good side so they can influence her, so they can get some of their policy priorities passed. That's politics. It's about influence. It's about getting things in return. That's why anybody endorses anybody, essentially on Capitol Hill. Now, on June 7th, if it's clear that Bernie Sanders is not going to get enough delegates to win, and he decides to throw behind Hillary Clinton, now there are some legislative priorities that he says Clinton must agree to push for if he will back her. And you saw that if you watched the interview with Bernie Sanders on The Young Turks, where Cenk Uygur asked, look, if you don't get enough delegates, if you're not going to win, what would it take for you to back Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton? Well, she would have to agree to champion some of our policies. And then, yes, then I would throw behind her. Okay. So if Bernie doesn't get enough delegates, well, she would, she decides to champion some of his policy priorities, and Warren joins in that effort, well, she would be the one person in the Senate that would be instrumental in trying to hold her to following that promise. She can't do that if she's on Hillary's hit list. She'd be in the best position. Well, not being on that list means she'll be in the best position to keep the pressure on her to at least enact some sort of regulatory reform on the banks or something, to work towards something. Like the things that she has promised during this primary. Not that I know that it would 100% work, but it definitely won't work if Hillary Clinton ends up destroying Senator Warren's career. And that's the thing. And that's why she's playing this, in my opinion, political game. And I know it's frustrating because it is politics. And I think Senator Warren right now, she's just playing for survival in the Senate in order to fight for the things that she does believe in and that she's been fighting for. And if Hillary Clinton wins, to be able to have some sort of influence on Hillary Clinton. Now, I could be wrong. But that is my theory on why she's hesitant to endorse anyone at this point. What's your theory? Well, let me know in the comments.